All right, opening day around Major League Baseball, 1 week from tomorrow, April 7th. It's my sister's birthday. Salvador Perez, the leader in the RBI department with 121 last season. Jose Abreu just 4 behind that. And then you have the best 13-year-old in Major League Baseball history, Rafael Devers, a $113. That's gorgeous. That also tied with Adam Duvall. Matt Olson, Vlad Guerrero Jr., 111. Don't see it there on the screen, but trust me, DraftKings contributors, Nick Friar, Garion, Thorne, good morning, guys. Let's talk some RBI props, shall we? Let's go ahead and look at the prop who's going to be the leader, overall leader in the RBIs. You say RBI or RBIs? I say RBI. 2022 for MLB. So right now we have Vlad Guerrero Jr., the favorite, plus 800 on the DK Sportsbook, guys. That's tied for 5th most in the majors last year. Again, 111. How much do you like him as the favorite here? Garion, I'll start with you. That's your hometown team.
Yeah, I think the big thing with Vladdy when it comes to counting stats is he's only actually missed 1 game the last 2 seasons, which, big storyline in Toronto, his rookie season, especially considering he was 19, 20 years old, was conditioning, and the fact that he had regimented days off and things like that. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So when you're looking at these stats, at the end of the day, we can break down as many advanced statistics as we want, but it's kind of luck and volume based. It's just about which one of these guys is going to end up having the most plate appearances and playing the most games, is not going to spend a day on the 15-day IL. So, yeah, I think Vlad's got a pretty good chance, especially when you consider who's hitting in front of him, who's getting on base in front of him. The fact that Fangraphs has the Jays as one of just 3 teams in baseball projected to average over 5 runs per game. I think he's justified being the favorite. Now, generally speaking, I don't like betting the favorite. I think someone like, even Freddie Freeman's 25-1, which I think is a little surprising considering the Dodgers are one of those other 3 teams that happen to be projected for over 5 runs per game. You look at some of the OBP guys who are hitting above him or around him. We don't really know how that Dodgers lineup is going to shake out quite yet, but like Max Muncy, Mookie Betts, Trey Turner all getting on base, probably in front of Freddie Freeman. And the fact that maybe the Dodgers won't be as inclined to sort of give some of their guys a couple rest days now that the IL is back to 15 days and not 10 days. Now that they have a DH spot to kind of put some of these guys in and give them a half day off every now and then. So I think Freeman at 25-1 is probably my favorite bet on the board, but I don't have any problem with Vlad being the favorite.
Okay, Nick, do you have a problem with Vlad being the favorite here? Made a serious run at that Triple Crown last year.
No, of course not. I don't know why anybody would have a problem with Vlad in any capacity, although yesterday that we were proven incorrect with Steve's takes on his home runs and everything. But I'm not going to go with him, even though he's at plus 800 right now. If you go down like 11 guys, all the way at number 12, you see a few guys that have 20-1 odds. Jose Abreu is among those guys. 4 off the lead last year. You highlighted earlier, Emerson. 123 2 years ago, of course, had the shortened season in 2020, but he was on pace to have a big year that year as well if they played the full 162. In last year too, I know Garion brought up how we're looking more at the counting stats and more at how games played and plate appearances matter. Absolutely 100% agree with that. But what I like seeing from Abreu too is last year kind of had an off year in the sense he only hit 261, had an 831 OPS, still finished just short of Salvador Perez's leading RBI count. So for me, I think if you're looking for best bang for your buck, I think Abreu's the guy to go with. As much as I think Vladdy is a reasonable one to take at plus 800, Abreu's my guy to win it this year.
Well, let's look at some other individual props while you guys are here. So Matt Olson, again, tying with Vlad last season, 111, but he's now going to be swinging the bat in Atlanta for the Braves. RBI total prop set at 109.5. So how confident are you in him actually getting there, Garion?
So again, this is one of those numbers where you're essentially projecting him to play over 155 games this season. And just in general, the smart money is on the under here. I just think that, one oblique strain, one really bad stub toe, who even knows? It's just one trip to the 15-day IL, and I don't think Matt Olson gets to this number. So I'll take the under, considering only 7 players, and Olson was among those 7 players, but only 7 guys actually got to this threshold last season. And I think there's a little bit of baked-in regression for Matt Olson this year. I mean, he's coming off arguably the greatest season of his career. He is moving to a better hitter's ballpark, leaving the Coliseum, but you've got some really nice pitching staffs in that National League East. I mean, he's going up against the Mets and the Marlins and the Phillies. And also the fact that he just suddenly went from a guy who strikes out like 27, 28% of the time to 16% of the time. I think all the projection systems have his strikeout rate, just trickling up a couple percentage points again. Like it doesn't take much for him to finish this season at like 104, 105. So I think with a little bit of regression, maybe a little bit of injury bad luck, he goes under this number.
All right, Nick, how close does he get to 109.5, or does he exceed it?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a close one. I'm going to go and back him this year. I'm very high on Matt Olson going into the season. Biggest reason, of course, being the ballpark, which Garion highlighted a little bit. Just moving to a different division, moving to a different league. What am I saying? But he's got a better lineup, too, so he's going to have some semblance of protection around him where he's been playing in Oakland this whole time. I know we're going to see more of the impact on the home run total versus the RBI count. But when you look at the 162 game projections over the last few seasons, he would be hitting this number with regularity. I know he was only doing it last season. And, of course, injuries are a concern, but I think that the difference that the lineup is going to make for him this year is going to help put him over this hump, even if he plays a little bit less than he did last season.
All right, Nick, let's talk about last year's NL MVP here. So Bryce Harper, total set at 97.5. I know in Philly there's been some improvements made to the lineup there. So you think that's going to help Harper go over this number?
It's going to help Harper out quite a bit, and I do like the over on his home run total, but this is where Gary and I kind of fall in line in terms of the injuries and everything and missing a certain amount of time. It looks like Harper needs to get at least 150 games in to have a chance at this number. He's gone, aside from 2020, he's gone over this number in 3 of the last 6 full MLB seasons. And look, it's not that I don't think that he can't hit this if he's healthy the whole time. Yeah, sure, great. He'll definitely hit it if he's healthy, but I don't trust that we're going to see him play 150 games over the entirety of this season, just with built-in time off. And if an injury pops up, I think this is a guy who you kind of manage his health a little bit more so than maybe an Olsen would necessarily. So no, I'm going to go under on Harper's RBI total.
Yeah, Garion, health is always so key with this dude.
Yeah, but it's funny, regardless of what I've already said, I do actually like this over. I think this number's low enough where even if he does spend 15 days on the IL, I still think he can get there. And I know the RBI total specifically was underwhelming last season, especially considering all of his other statistics just being, elite across the board. But a big part of that was, as you mentioned earlier, Emerson, lineup protection. I mean, this is a guy who was playing for a team that was ravaged by injuries. And when you look at his numbers with runners in scoring position, this is someone who had a 23.2% walk rate when he was batting with runners in scoring position. That was the 3rd highest walk rate in all of baseball. He just wasn't getting anything to hit. He was actually intentionally walked 14 times last season, which was the 4th most of any player in baseball. I just don't think you can do that with Nick Castellanos now hitting behind him, with Rhys Hoskins, hopefully a healthy Rhys Hoskins, hitting behind Castellanos. I just think the lineup construction is so different this season for the Phillies as opposed to where it was last season that you just can't pitch around Bryce Harper the same way teams were last season. So I actually think his RBI total is going to go way up from where it was in 2021.
Nick, I know a lot of people think your friend there, Rafael Devers, could make a run at like a 50-homer season here sooner rather than later, a foe of Garion and his Blue Jays. So he had 113 RBI last year. That was actually his second best output of his career, RBI output. So his 2022 total this year, 113.5. So do you envision another big season for Devers?
Yeah, one would think so. And I mean, the big thing for him, again, like with any of these other guys, is the amount of games that they're playing over the course of the season. And he's played 156 games in the last 2 full MLB seasons. And if he had the chance to play 156 games in 2020, he also would have gone over this number. Obviously came up a little bit short last year. But the big thing with him is we saw, obviously, a dip in terms of average last season after a huge year in 2019 all around. Also saw a pretty big dip in terms of power. I know he hit 6 more home runs, but he also had 17 less doubles than he did in 2019, but still right around this mark. You're adding Trevor Story to the lineup, so this lineup just continues to get a little bit deeper. As much as I don't expect him to be Trevor Story that he was in Colorado, still a nice healthy addition to this lineup in Fenway Park. Should still help that guy out quite a bit. But by and large, yes, Devers' health hasn't been an issue with him. He's going to be in the lineup. He's got protection around him. So yeah, I think he can hit the over on this mark.
Yeah, Gary, and he's quietly become one of the league's best hitters, man.
Sure, quietly. That's one way to look at it. I'm sure the Boston baseball market, always quiet about baseball.
Oh, for sure. I'm just meant like 11th in the MVP voting with those numbers last year. Kind of crazy.
Sure. So I'm going to take the under on this number. Again, just sort of it's a big number. It's a huge number. And I think that the one thing, I'm not concerned at all about the offensive potential of the Red Sox. If there's anything to be concerned about, it's the pitching staff. So that's not the reason. It's not lineup construction here. From a who's in the lineup standpoint that worries me a little bit about Devers, it's kind of just what Alex Cora is going to do with him. Because if we've seen anything so far this spring, it's that Devers might now be the Red Sox number 2 hitter, which in general could mean more plate appearances at the end of the season, like maybe 30 or 40 plate appearances by the end of the season. But this is someone who took 527 of his plate appearances last year, either batting cleanup or 5th. And if he's hitting second, I just don't see that as maybe an opportunity for his RBI total to increase. It's more likely that his runs total will increase. So that's really my concern right now with Devers, is where he's actually going to be hitting in this Red Sox lineup, because he might be more of a run scoring position than a run driving in position if he's going to be hitting second for the duration of the season.